check. It's about 7-second delay to Twitch. Hopefully we fixed it. That was really weird. It looks like we're back. Oh, we're back. Are we back? Yep, looks like we're back. Okay, cool. Oh, it's up and down a bit. That's fine. Looks like we're back. All right, cool. We are back. Sweet. So just had a bit of an internet outage there. Yeah, cool. All right, so next thing we need to work on is getting this Docker. Like, so ultimately we can run it in Docker. For some reason it's not installing everything. What do we Microsoft.core. Let's see if these are actually. So what's the .NET actually installing in the container? Let's go rebuild the container. Oh, it's all happening today. It's all on like Donkey Kong. Good times, good times. All right. So, what have we done today? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. We probably just mucked around with trying to get things to work, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, it's pretty interesting day today. Didn't expect to have this and being troubleshooting everything to try and get everything working. So yeah, but this is the life of working with experimental technologies, is that you're going to be working with basically a changing environment all the time. So yeah, so we're waiting for that to change. Let's see, how's everyone going? How's life around the world? Hope everyone's doing all right. Yeah. So while we're waiting for this to rebuild, I think we might as well continue to read it. Ultimately, we're going to need to build out downloading a new image from Docker. Alright, so I just got a microphone now. I can't see it. Okay, cool. That message. Okay. So let's see what else is happening. Well, I think what we can probably do is, while we're waiting, might as well jump on the old Reddit and see what's happening on the PowerShell forums and seeing if we can help some people out. I love it how it goes onto that screen. It's just, we can wait. While we wait for this image to rebuild, go and do some old PowerShell help. Log in. And see how many responses we got about the PowerShell classes. I've got 4 responses, it looks like. All right, what do we have here? All right, so let's do the old check. So first, let's go with the PowerShell one. What do we have here? Subtracting lists. 2 lists with custom objects. I was wondering how to subtract them. The first list contained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the second contains 1, 4, 5. how would I get the 1, 2 from the first list? The first list contained 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm guessing by what he's saying by list is he's actually saying array. And he's basically saying I want to remove 1 and 2 from that. If the first list contained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the second list contained 1, 2, 4, 5, how would I get 1, 2 from the first list? But that's not subtracting, that's just getting 1, 2 from the list. Just wondering how to subtract them. If the first list contained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the second contained 1, 4, 5, how would I get 1, 2 from the first list? That's an inclusion, it's not a subtraction. Let's just open up new VS Code. We can literally write this out. Let's just open up. Let's use the OBS timer directory because that's fine. So if you got first list contains 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the second contains 1, 4, and 5, how would I get 1, 2 from the first list? It's kind of, the second list then doesn't really get used. So I'm just going to call it array 1. So essentially, if you want to just get that, you're just being inclusive. So what you would do there is you just go array 1. I should write it like this. Where object is equal to, and then it actually would be in. Does it have an in? I don't think it does. Let's go where object. How would I get the 1, 2 from the first list? Yeah, so you would then just go is in 1, 2 like that, or better. Let me just say includes, and then we just go 1, 2, and then it just goes in includes like so. So essentially it's just saying give me those 2 items. Like, it's pretty straightforward. Get that. Helps if I define it. You can see if there's 1, 2. If you want to subtract something from the list, so let's just go then if you actually want to subtract, you do this. So we can just go array 1, where object is in, and then basically we can just say array 2. And you're just actually be not in, so essentially just saying, okay, get me 2, 3. That's what it should return. Yeah, there you go. Or if you want to flip it, so you just, again, it's inclusionary. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm making it a word now. Let me just say it's just flip the operator to be an in. There we go, 145. The thing is though, if you're gonna do that anyway, like, you just might as well, like, yeah, actually no, you'd probably, like, there would be reasons why, but in that instance, I would just go get that array because you've already declared it. If it was an actual object, that would then make sense. But yeah, I'm guessing that's what he wants. I'm just going to quickly erase that. Now I've written the code. I've answered your question. Essentially, you use the in, not in operator pass to. I would like to point out, however, you don't need to do this with a single array. Actually, no, we don't really need that. There we go. That's one down. Let's see what else we've got in the helpless. Let's see where that's going. Yeah, are we still installing? Have we built? Looks like we might have built. I think we've built. I don't know. Let's just see. I think we might have built. Let's just give it a go. Function start. No. While waiting on that. What else do we have in here? Excluding people from dynamic distribution groups. Kind of struggling with adjusting an existing dynamic group membership. I would like to exclude a group people, board members, from getting all users DDG. I do not think we can filter by OU, so I can do something as simple as... You can filter by OU, I'm pretty sure. You can just use the DN path. Oh, it really depends if it's an on-prem or a 365. If it's 365, the DN path will be different. Yes, you can't filter on the OU path since the OU path changes as you change your OU path changes with ADC. Set a custom attribute or use the description or use the job title. Right. use a custom attribute like job title. Use a custom attribute like job title, which should contain board members, and filter and exclude on that. Where's the recipient filter? No, you can't do it like that. Office not like board members. What's I know that there's a specific way to do this, and I've done this before. I just haven't done it for so long. So I'll have a look at that parameter. Okay, it's type string. Oh yeah, the example is pretty straightforward. Custom OU path. So essentially, what was the response? Is not like allowed. Like that, it's really important that you understand what the recipient filter is, because the recipient filter it's different to PowerShell. It's similar, but there's certain conditions that are not present. Just trying to find what the actual recipient filter is. Oh, here we go. What does it contain? You've got, okay, you have like. Okay, that's fine then. Can't filter on an OU path, since the OU path changes with data sync. Use a custom attribute like job title. Exclude on that. Office is not the best. Filter on, and because issues with that feature. And then basically just say pinches the crap. Should work fine. OU path. Let's say changes. It's different. Is different with AAD. ENT is custom attribute like job title, should contain board members and exclude on that. Office is not the best attribute to filter on. And will cause issues in the future. Solution should be fine. While we're doing that, let's have a look at one more, see if there's anything else of interest. It's impossible to find machine names a user is logged into based on the username. I'm not even look at that. I'm not looking at that. I've been reading Microsoft Authentication Library, okay, and the hammering and anything it seems to figure out do something that's probably 100% unsupported anyway. Here goes. When I connect to Exchange Online to tenancy as a global layman, then pass MFA, I'd like to be able to save the token. But yeah, if I close the PowerShell terminal, the token is 100% gone. To prevent that, I was wondering within PowerShell, I'm just trying to think. Does connect to Exchange Online work with the admin flow? Or with admin consent? That's a good question. Does it work with admin consent? Let's talk about tokens and OAuth a bit. This is not best solution. You do not save the token locally unless there's no other option. So there's many other ways that you can authenticate to Exchange Online other than basically using the user flow. So traditional OAuth, obtain, go through the authorization code, obtain an access token, and then use that token for the lifetime. There's other things you can do, and it's not necessarily it's bad security practice. It's more along the lines of that. It's basically that token will expire. The tokens, while they have, you can request refresh tokens and refresh your token. That token refresh is only works for a period of time. It's not. So the better way to do it would be to use either certificate-based auth, or another way is to actually use could try and use the admin consent flow. So essentially in the admin consent flow, I don't know if this is going to be able to work, because essentially what you need to do is, let me have a look at what's in Connect to Exchange Online. Just having a quick look at what is it. Yeah, this is the old way of doing it. Exchange Online V2. I'm actually interested to see what this bloke responded with. Yeah, cert-based auth. That's exactly right. Use certificate-based auth. So yeah, it goes through. This is how you set it up. You have admin consent. Yep, that's the better way to do it. Yep, that's actually a really good article. Big shout out. Good. And that's very, very succinct article. I literally just looked at the images and everything. It just checks out. So essentially what you'll need to do here is you jump into Azure Active Directory and you go to, let's just go on app registrations. And then you go ahead and create a new app registration. You will give it its API permissions, so it needs exchange.manage as app. You can go ahead and remove Microsoft Graph. You don't need to use that. From that, basically, you obviously need to get granted admin consent. So you need to go and browse. You need to grant it admin consent. Actually, I don't think you need to browse the endpoint because it's already done. And then what you do is you go to certificates and secrets, generate a new certificate, or generate and upload a new certificate. So essentially, you have a certificate locally, you have a certificate within Azure Active Directory, and then within that, basically, you'll grant it the roles. So essentially, you need to be able to the service principal, which is the actual app itself. So this app will have a service principal. You need to grant it access to the tenant to be able to actually do what it needs to do. Having the scope is not enough. It needs to have the role, and then basically you can connect using the certificate thumbprint. Obviously specify your app ID, don't show the banner, here's your tenant, and then basically you need to specify the certificate file path. So basically pass the certificate through. If you have a password on the certificate, use that, and then basically go ahead. And so the way that it works from its side is using that certificate-based auth. It's able to actually create essentially an access token from that certificate-based auth, or it will. It comes down to two things. It can either create an access token from that certificate-based auth, or it will basically it'll be able to issue that. The issuer, with it being Azure, will be able to issue a token based on that certificate's identity. And that's really it. Like, it's really straightforward. Well, I'm just going to write a quick little blurb here. While saving tokens to the local disk is not can be done. It's not the preferred option. Oh, I'll say preferred. I'd say best solution. Best solution. 100% correct. When saving tokens to the local disk, while saving tokens can be done, it's not the best solution. Is to use tenant to use best use is cert based auth. The reason for this is because while tokens do have a limited lifetime, refresh tokens also have a limited number. There is also a limited number of refresh tokens available, which means that you would have to re-obtain an access token and go through the whole MFA shenanigans. Now, if there's no other option and essentially you don't have certificate-based auth or anything like that, because some API endpoints don't, like there's one, there's DTO API doesn't have that, so it's on an infinite refresh token. That's the only way I'd be able to, if that's the only way that a service can manage it, then that's the way that it has to be. But if it's not, then it's use the other solution. It's just easier. Go through the whole MFA shenanigans. 100% correct. While saving tokens to the local disk can be done, it's not the best solution. The reason is because while tokens have a limited lifetime, there's also a number of refresh tokens available. A limited number of refresh tokens, which means you have to re-obtain the access token and go through the whole MFA shenanigans. All right, done. All right, let's have a look at some responses, and then hopefully we can go back to and troubleshoot our code. All right, PowerShell classes, PowerShell classes, PowerShell classes, PowerShell classes, PowerShell classes. Interesting. Okay, let's go have a read some of this. My main PowerShell project has been making a module that interacts with an application via site or implemented classes box. I started OOP a bit. I feel a proper implementation can lead to overcomplication, wanting a banana, but also giving the monkey the tree, the jungle. Interesting. The way I learned class to turn and build all the things, I'm trying to figure out how. For an example. Now, I've promised I won't actually respond on this, so I'm making an effort. I'm not going to actually respond on this. I find slow things like select object with custom properties can be so much faster with a class and a constructor. Yep. Former is easier for the uninstantiated. If you guys want my actually I'm just going to quickly check the chat because for some reason it's completely broken. Is anyone so what's the other ones we have here? Forums easier and I'm wondering whether I'm not going to respond on this. I won't contribute to this. Like, to be straight up front, I'm against classes. And my counter argument to this is that classes are PowerShell objects are actually faster in PowerShell core than classes, which kind of makes classes a bit redundant. I wrote a class that would deploy software packages from various places. It was never put in production because things like chocolate in get exist, but it's a fun process. Yeah. I've used PowerShell classes as a distinct class for creating command line shortcuts for recreational PowerShell, but I don't ever remember using it in production script. Yeah. So it's very interesting. You see different people using it. I'm very like. My 2 cents on the matter is the fact that I believe that classes essentially adding complexity when there doesn't need to be any. That's really the short of it. But that all aside, what I'm interested in hearing is other people's thoughts on it, trying to understand what the best thing is. So let's go to Twitter, because there's a fair bit of stuff that's going on Twitter, which is always good. So let's actually throw that up on another screen. Let's have a look here. So basically, obviously, had the same discussion. Do you use PowerShell classes? What's best considered best practice with implementation? Best approach to using PowerShell classes? Okay, so I don't use them. Started in the path of using Win10 adaptive toast and burn toast. Stopped that abruptly when I found out the Universal Windows plugin toolkit. I find reasons to use them more often than I should. I highly recommend them if you're creating DSC resources, but further away from that you get, the rougher they are to work with. Interesting. DSC is the main place I use them. I wrote a majority of ARM template AST tools using classes for all the ARM pieces, and they work well there. Yesterday, I needed a bunch of parser files and various pieces of info, plus I have needed methods for the object. Love using classes if it makes sense. Personally, I haven't while on scripting. I leave most classes in C# and invoke them in PowerShell. It's just personal preference. I use classes with inheritance for one module. They use primary to convert JSON to typed objects, while they can be developed into a separate file or module. For instance, ideally they should be appended to the module's main PSM1 file. I've used another module that uses OAuth class to do all the heavy lifting for the functions. Yeah, I've done that similarly. I think PowerShell classes were mainly used for creating custom DSC resources. I can honestly say that I have not found any reason to use them outside for DSC purposes. Sometimes when doing a temporary testing, anything I release converted to C#, first with a very, very few exceptions, most of the time for performance reasons, because I like to separate the data definition from the function logic. Fair enough. I use PowerShell classes like structs in Go. I have a whole bunch of different functions working with the same objects, and I want to enforce a contract to save myself from stupid mistakes. That's really one thing, is that, yeah, you can really enforce a type. From the standard work, I think most of them are non-idiomatic. These are good use cases. Most general work I have done. I feel like PowerShell classes are cool, but it's not a first-class experience. Rana responded, I would use them more than as they're a good starting point to learn object-oriented programming. Going from traditional functional scripter to a programmer. Converted a couple of functions to classes, but that's just the beginning. Then the final one, PowerShell classes are tough to work with, but they allow you to test and debug everything without switching the environment. So you see the native stack trace and all. Use them extensively in DBOps module to create SQL packaging framework and extend from the DBOps C# library. This is really the question, is that there's a few questions that get raised, which is, I think some of them are actually quite valid, is that when is it that basically, if you're starting to use classes, the question is really getting asked, why don't you just use C#? Like, and then you're kind of bridging that gap where, like, you're kind of in this gray area between actual C# commandlet and using PowerShell scripting, and it kind of does sit in that middle ground there. But that I feel like that middle ground is so gray that it's very, very interesting. I always enjoy these kinds of discussions. I thought that was going to be a bit more of a thought there was going to be a bit more of a discussion. I'm just going to upvote everyone because generally speaking, that's the right thing to do. Like, I'm not going to be actually actively contributing on Reddit. I don't think that's appropriate. I'm sitting here trying to remain as neutral as possible. I can see both use cases for classes where, you know, you don't really want to have to go and write a C# class. Like, that's like, oh my god, and then you have to actually add the assembly and blah 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 blah, and that's like not fun. But at the same time, now I'm like, you know, really the question is that you kind of like the question is how far is complex? Like, when are you adding complexity to something that doesn't need it, versus just lifting and shifting it? Like, because there are definite needs for classes. Like, you know, some people, you know, there's a lot of use cases in there which I believe that, you know, would be a great use for classes. But then it comes down to how do you manage that? So is that something that, okay, you use PowerShell classes, and then as the app or the module, the app, the script evolves over time, you just lift and shift it into C#? Or is it just, you know, you kind of leave it as is, and then, you know, because ultimately, like, one of the big ones is that performance is better in PowerShell 5 and for classes, PS custom objects, things like that, are slower. So yes, you do get performance improvements, 100%, that's fair enough. I think, you know, if you want your code to run faster, fair enough, go and use the best tools. However, this really kind of brings me back to one of the actual, my original argument, which was, if you're writing something that's really, really quite large, for example, like a class, yes, and you're using that object type over and over again. So for instance, you've got a class which, you know, actually requires those specific sets of objects. I do believe personally that that's a really good means of having a class. However, adding classes for the sake of adding classes is, you know, without actually have to be able to properly justify it. And just basically, you know, it's a bit like, you know, using the new shiny tool in the toolbox. It can kind of sour the experience, because then basically what you're doing is you kind of are adding complexity when there doesn't need to be any. So, but anyway, interesting discussions, very interesting discussions. So let's hope that my Docker file is now fixed after it. I'm hoping it's fixed. If it's not, then we're going to pretty much have to. Okay, so we've got something else going on here. Okay, now we're still missing all that. All right, let's go ahead and manually install all this. Check application dependencies, target framework. Yep. Installing .NET Core framework might help you with my little one is awake and she is not happy because she's probably getting changed, and the cold change table is not fun. All right, we're just going to have a quick look at .NET Core. Let's see if we can actually just install. Yeah, that's not going to run. I actually have to go ahead and install that. I have never done this on. Oh, containers provide a light way of doing it. Okay. Containers can do. .NET Core can run in a Docker container. Yep. So we can go to the Docker Hub and we can probably just go grab it from there. Fantastic. This has already made my life already easy, much easier, isn't it? So what's the original Docker image that we're using? So we're using .NET Core SDK, which is the latest. SDK 2.1. Yeah. Let's see if that. I'm just looking at this. Let's go over here. Oop. So this is the Docker image here. Any reviews? Does not work on Windows Campaigner. Yeah, that's why I use Linux. Docker is definitely not my strong point. Docker is definitely not my strong point. Let's keep carrying on. So, related repos, blah blah blah. Docker run. You can quickly run a container with a pre-built .NET Docker install. Yep, that's fine. Docker run it. Yep, ASP.4. MCR samples. Samples. So it says it's 2.1, 3.1. We can get rid of this. We can delete. Actually, we can just delete it. Let's go ahead and delete it. No need to recycle bin. So if that's the case, let's just rebuild. Let's go ahead and rebuild. Open folder. I'm gonna do. Let's do it this way. Rebuild. This is probably going to re-download the Docker image, which is going to take forever, or it's going to fail. Okay, nope. That's only 50 meg. That shouldn't be too bad. That shouldn't be too bad. All right, Susan chat. All right, how is everybody today? I can see there's a few people in chat. We can ask some questions. What's your thoughts on PowerShell classes? I'd be very interested in hearing everyone's thoughts. But ultimately, you know, the way I see it is, with PowerShell classes, a lot, you know, you're gonna have a lot of people in different camps, and ultimately, I don't particularly really. While I have a specific camp that I like to sit in, I'm always happy to change based on a good argument that basically is compelling. And that's not necessarily, you know, something that I'm considering that, you know, it's not an argument, you know, that's based on emotion, or that's just a factual argument. Hey, you know, for instance, PowerShell classes is good in 5. It's really fast. Great. That's good. 6 and 7, it doesn't really use it anymore. But at the same time, you've got other things which really, like, to be honest, right now I'm still sitting on the fence. I personally don't like them. That's my 2 cents on the matter. But at the same time, I'm still sitting on the fence to whether I actually make a proper decision. Really just basically implementing. Like, my personal preference was I won't use classes, but at the same time, if I'm in an organization and I come across a class, I'm going to say, okay, I'm not going to go, all right, we're going to rewrite this as a, you know, as a function or something like that. I'm just going to literally leave it. So that's really the where it's going to be at. So interested to hear your thoughts. What do you guys think of PowerShell classes? All right. We're waiting for our Docker image to rebuild, and hopefully we can actually start our function app. Would be nice, because I really want to actually be able to do it, and rather than we literally spent an hour and a half right now just kind of trying to get this to work. Sunny outside? I think it is. I might be able to take my daughter to the park, which she will like. She will enjoy the park. Alright, I think it's downloading a new PowerShell dev. Okay. Oh, we got another one. Do we have another one? Oh, no, some guy just followed me. Okay. That's cool. Thank you for the follow if you're watching. Yeah, so I think we're just going to give this a go. If this doesn't work, I think I'm going to probably have to take this offline. Or if you guys really want me to watch me fight this, and then basically have to essentially try and write something into a Docker image, which can then effectively download it. I think because it's broken, I think it's just going to have to raise an issue. I'll jump in GitHub and raise an issue. We'll go from there. See how we go. Come on. Come on. Oh. Alright, while we're waiting on that, let's continue. Might as well continue on in Reddit, because there's always people to need to have questions answered. Try to find the login from the last user. Wow, that's 5. I'm actually interested to see what this other people wrote. How many properties do you look at? Determine custom objects. Is it up? Yeah, so essentially it's just the original logic. Trying to find the last login of a user. I want to make a script that finds the last date modified on a user's profile folder. I have something partially working. I have a list of users in the video I name. I want to be able to pull in the video I name and pipe into variables, and then use a loop to return get item command. The end goal was the last time user logged into their VDI. Here's the current script. My first response is exactly this. Just do a logon script and capture it there. Do something else versus, because that's basically just a really crazy way of doing it. Oh, okay. Just got a reminder, I need to pay my phone bill today. Yeah, you could use an logon script. That's a. You can always get the timestamp of the username, computer name, write this from a phone, so it might be weird. I want to limit myself to a specific list of you. Oh. Yeah, a lot of these are actually. Oh, what do we got? Docker build. We have a failure. We have a failure. Why do we have a failure? Docker build, non-code, durable function, fan in, fan out, blah, blah, blah. Okay, retry. It's probably going to redo the entire image. I think it's rebuilding the entire image. Yep. Well, hopefully it caches it. Hopefully it caches it. It's downloading the entire image. Alright, that's fun. This was a completely unproductive day, which really isn't fun at all. So, I literally chatted for an hour and a half, and we didn't really get much done. It might be a lesson in Docker and trying to work out why it's not working. I think the reason why is because I did change the Docker file, yeah, admittedly, but I think it might be because it wants that specific version. And if that version of that Docker image has changed, then things are not going to work properly. So what's the PowerShell version? So PS version is 6.2.3. I might actually change that, to be honest. I might change that to PowerShell 7 and then rebuild it and see what happens. What's the latest version of PowerShell? We're in 7.2. Yep, we're in 7.0.2. If that's the case, let me just can this. There's that remote connection. Let's just open our fan in and fan out. Here, let's just undo that and put it back to what it was, which was 2.2, I think. I just quickly got to remember where it was. Where did I have that one? Here we go. It was 2.1. So let's go back to old Docker. Yes, code. So I'm going to basically go 7.0.2, 7.0.0.2. So that's PowerShell version arguments package. So it'll be PowerShell underscore 7. Now does that actually exist? That's the one thing we now need to understand is does that exist as a package? Um, 7.0.2. It's got a -1. Debian 9. Yep. There's a Debian 11. What are the differences? I'm guessing that's just versions of Debian. And then AM4. I just want to quickly just copy and paste this into there. Yep, it exists. Perfect. Alright, so it updated to 7.2. It's going to be running 2.1. Let's go ahead and try and rebuild our container. Reopen the container. Hopefully, we're going to build our image. So what's it saying now? 7.2. Great. And I'm going to try and download PowerShell Debian. Again. Again. Yeah, so what else is happening here? Let's just go reopen the stream chat. A few people in chat, so g'day everybody. Chat, yeah, so we got a couple of people in chat. Hope you guys stick around. Just watching me fight Debian. Oh, sorry, fight Docker, and PowerShell. Like ultimately, I really want to get this to work. I think I'm pretty much writing off today. I'm just going to see if we can spend the next couple of hours trying to fix this issue. Unproductive, but it's the nature of the beast, unfortunately. Yeah, okay. So I think if we can at least get this working, that would be great. I'm going to have a quick look at the Docker file, make sure that I haven't broken anything. Let's open it up in Notepad. Interesting. The Docker file. So it's completely different. The PowerShell Durable Preview Master looks like the Docker file is completely changed. It's completely changed. Okay, something's not right here. I'm canning this. I just had a look at the zip file that I downloaded recently. And it's just different, completely different. So what I'm going to do is can this, close that. I'm going to go this. I'm going to rename it so that. I'm going to re-extract it. So if we have a quick look fan out, fan in now, you can see that, whoops, go to the parent directory. Yeah, we're in the wrong directory. If we go to the parent directory, you can see the Docker file is completely changed. Yeah, go ahead and restore those dependencies, please. They didn't restore anything. Alright, so if that's the case, it might have. Let's reopen it into a Docker. So, reopen in container. So there might be something that has changed that basically is being fixed. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, so we're running 7 now. So so we'll just quickly go to fan out, fan in. We go to settings.json. You just need to pop in a web storage job. Where is that? Ignore. Minimize that. Copy that. Skip that again. See what happens. Orchestration trigger is not registered. Please ensure the type's correct and the binding extension is installed. That's a way better error than what we had previously. I think I can't remember what we did here to fix it. Just can't remember what we did. I'm just going to Google it. It's always the quickest way to do it. Something along the lines. Okay, yeah, I need to run this. That's right. So I can just go ahead and run that. And hopefully, if we can get this working, then we can just go back to debugging our code. Fingers crossed. I think what's happened is there was a different Docker file. I was using something else that wasn't working. Don't know why. Super weird. Right, so that's, just wait for it to get returned to our console. Still waiting. Still waiting. All right, while we're waiting on that, jump back in here. Oh, build succeeded. Fantastic. Three functions found. Do we have any errors? We don't have any errors. Fantastic. We got it working in Docker. All right. Now, what we can do is stop that. I'm going to go steal the Docker container files, all that, and then chuck it in to my project. And we can get this thing back on the road. So we've got it working. We fixed our Docker issue. So let's go and fix it. So we need to go to container, and I need to bring that into my code. Let's go ahead and open that up. We can just go ahead and close the connection. Let's go ahead and open a folder. Git, copy user sentiment. Let's go here. There definitely needs to be a code cleanup. So this, we can probably just reopen into container. The first thing you can see there is integrated. You have an old version. Okay, so it's running 7. So what I'm going to do is just reinstall all the functions and extensions just to make sure that that's fixed. So I've got okay, so that's make sure that's all sorted. Modules that can go. We don't need thread job anymore. HTML agility pack, we still need him. Okay, let's do a bunch. Let's start. Do we have success? Looking good, looking good, looking bad. Okay, what do we got here? Why do we have these issues? What do we have? Worker function ID, failure, no parameter defined in the script, or input binding name. So we can see it. System log, installing function at required modules. Yep, manage dependencies, installation mode optional. No, please go ahead and install it. Worker failed to function. Could be also got a bad function in here somewhere. Yeah, okay, so it's no input binding. Okay, let's just go ahead and relaunch that, see if that fixes it. I think this just needs to be a lot of cleaning up here. I think a couple of my input bindings are not up to scratch. I do have an archives directory, so I'm just been chucking stuff inside of there. I'm going to do a reload. Still not working. Can you tell me which file it is? User post, username. Okay, let's have a look for that. Where's user post, username? No input running for that. Okay. So I think this is just an issue now with the code that we have to kind of fix up. I'm just interested to see if it's picking up a function. No. So it's found that. Which one does it not like it? Oh, like it would be good if I could figure out which one it was. No input defined. Oh, input finding. I'm absolutely lost to where it's trying to work that one out. Is there anything else in here that shouldn't be in here? Context. Ah, here we go. This is what it's having a go at. This. Ah, okay. So the reason why is because I think this is not a valid input binding. For some reason, oh, look. Let's actually go back to have a look at the other one. I just want to have a look at the activities are in that. Non-GitHub, PowerShell master, select folder. So if we go, is there an activity here? So that's the start. So you can see there, that's the standard one. There's your orchestration. I'm looking for an activity. Start orchestrator, say hello. Let's have a look at hello. Param name. Is that having issues with activities? It might be having issues with identifying that it's an activity. Type direction in. So if we have a look at ours, oops, let's drop my wedding ring. If we go back to ours, activity. I'm interested now to find out why that's the case. So it looks like it can't. Looks like it's only one of them. No parameter defined in the script or function for input binding. Input binding defined for parameter that is declared. So I do think there's something else going on here because the activities should work, but they're not. Why is that the case? Hence, it worked. Well, we did actually open up the function chaining one. Let's say I open up that one. Open folder, PowerShell preview, master, function chaining. Actually, I'll just open it up here. Open up in the dev container, reopen the container. So what we can do is just go change directory functions chaining, and then we can just go start. Ah, that's fine. So let's go, copy that, paste that, delete that. Yeah, go ahead, get lost. And then you go there, let's go. Yep. The binding is activity trigger and it's not registered. Please ensure that type is correct and the correct binding extension is installed. So if we go back here, that's going to be the same issue that we're having here, is it just doesn't recognize activity triggers off to the Googles. Worst comes to worst, I'm just going to jump into GitHub. That's what I did. I ran functions too. installed that. So now there's issues just with, like, it's working, but now it's just not recognizing the activity. While we're doing that, I might as well jump on GitHub and go and have a look at the issues, because we might have a solution in our issues. Oh, I didn't want to run that. Oh well, we're running it again. Just going to log in GitHub, and we're just going to go grab those settings. I don't think this is going to work. Really? Really? Running it again fixed it. I might need to maybe change the C# underneath. So grab a copy of the C# binaries and just shove them in my repo. That's fixed it. It's now recognized those. Wow. Okay. Let's go have a look. Copy that. There's our bin directory. We don't have a bin directory. Oh, okay, we have to, I might just go and browse to them and then manually copy them over in the directory, in Explorer. Dev, non-git code, preview master, function chaining. Grab object, the binaries. And then I'm going to paste it into a copy user sentiment. Okay, let's see if this one. I'm just going to rerun function extensions install. Okay. What I am going to do now is to figure out what's going on, whether it's a build issue, whether it's a code issue. I'm going to go and add the function fan out, fan in, and then basically add that activity. Just say hello. I'm just going to add that to our code and see what it does. So you can see if you added it there, standard activity binding. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I think the thing that we're going to probably need to do right now is going to remove that. It should remove it from being a function if it doesn't have a JSON file associated with it. Worker failed to function ID. Okay, let's literally start gutting it, trying to find out the offending function. You can see that's worked to an extent. There's no errors. So it's clearly the activity functions that are causing issues. So let's literally... So doesn't like that. Doesn't like that one. Doesn't like that one. So the activities it doesn't like. But for some reason it likes this. I find that really interesting. Is it the code within it? Interesting. Is it the code within it? That's another interesting, because I think if it's the codes within it, wonder if it's just the namespaces. Okay. My assumption right now is the reason why this is happening is because of the using namespaces at the top. It doesn't like it. So you can see here the activity doesn't actually have that with these do. So I think it can't find them because of that. This is going to be my assumption. I didn't fix it. I might just restart it to see if that. I also have that one there, so I'm going to. Oh, that's a start trigger. Okay, so that one's that one. Okay. There's activity trigger. Still doesn't like it. Parameter defined in the script or function, input binding name. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm now intrigued just to do this. Actually just grab that. How to find function ID. Interesting. No parameter defined in the script or function with the input binding name. Well, it's not name. Ah, hang on. That's this one now. That's interesting. Let me just rename this. So activity, review, get user, So that worked. So the question then is that why is it not working here? So the other thing you probably want to ask is it because, so you see here we literally have static parameter name, nothing too crazy. My thought process let's do this. Let's rename the function, bring it back up, and what we're going to do here is I'm going to copy the run.ps1 file, and I wanted to see if it's something to do with the directory itself, the naming of the directory, and being running in a container is going to have issues. No, that worked. Interesting. Very interesting. So there's nothing wrong with the directory name. However, convert to user post. I didn't have a push output binding. Oh no. Let's get sentiment. No, I'll just do a write output. So essentially that should do what it needs to do. Interesting. Now, let's... Oops, didn't want to do that. Oh well, it's running it. So it doesn't like that. So why doesn't it like this? Why is it like that, but it doesn't like this? Try line 1. No parameter defined in script or function with input binding name. Doesn't have an input binding of name. The interesting thing is, it fails on this. Because that's the only other one that's working. So what happens if I do this? No input binding defined for the parameter name that is declared in the script or function. This is interesting. If we go back to this, whoops. And what we can do here is if we rerun it, oops, didn't mean to do that, but oh well. see what happens here. That works. Interesting. So there might be something in the code that's causing it to have issues. So that is actually quite interesting. You can see there it's perfectly fine. There's no issues. Three functions loaded. Alright, so if that's fine, what's the difference between this and this? Obviously it's space. I honestly don't think that that's going to be an issue. That's a passing issue. Like we are running in a .NET PowerShell 4, which basically is case sensitive. So that could also be a thing. So let's bring it all to lowercase. Let's all make it lowercase, and we're going to need to refactor our code so that essentially all our variables are now case sensitive. We made a mistake. We actually need to do this. Oh, actually, no, I need to do this. So I think what's happening here is with some sort of weird behavior. I think it's a PowerShell core thing, to be honest. But okay, so it's not that. That's fine. We're just essentially what I'm doing is we're just pretty much removing all the use cases to try and work out why it's deciding to not to work. Okay, so it's not spacing within that. Let's find out if it's an issue with the code. What's the coding that? Yeah, you both UTF-8, so there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's case sensitivity. No input binding. Okay, so let's get rid of spacing. I'm going to try this and see what happens. This is really interesting now. What I'm doing now is I'm literally just going to line by line remove each of those and find out what is so special about that. This honestly is really, really interesting. The why it's failing so catastrophically when it didn't before. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of all that. Let's find out why it's doing this. Yeah, that confuses me so much because nothing changed. Right, so name was there. Let's change it to something else. Name is not used in this code. It literally is just param block name, and it worked. So let's change it to something else. Really interesting. Does it actually have to be name? Does it legitimately have to be name? Does the only parameter that's allowed within the input binding is name? Are you kidding me? Wow, okay. So it's hard coded to name. That's what it only can expect. So if you have any other parameter that's set, it won't work for an activity function. Wow, okay. That's interesting. That didn't do that before, so I'm very intrigued to find out why. And that's why all the others are not working, is simply because it doesn't have names. So if I go ahead and delete this, that kind of irks me a little bit, to be honest. I'm actually going to go have a look at the documentation to find out what the actual binding requirements is for. Oh, sorry, the input parameters are for that specific thing, because I think that's just not right. Oh, two-factor failed. What's your thoughts, guys? I'm very intrigued to hear what other people think. Obviously, this is super preview. It's just not something that's going to be super easy to do, but still intrigued. Just going to jump into GitHub and have a look at the GitHub issues. That was a new release. Okay, so that's not really see? That's a different input parameter. That's the thing. So there is a bug there somewhere. If there's a new release. Where's the Docker? Where's the Docker file? It's building it. It's a new change. So let's have a look at this. Just gonna go to D drive, non-get code, paste. Let's build script in there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and run that build script and then see if we can fix it. Exquisite code. I'm just going to go ahead and build this, see if we can get it to work. It's not digitally signed. Oh my gosh, okay. Start admin. This is execution policy. Go. Current user. Shell 7. Will you work this time? Okay, yeah, one month. So rebuild our module. Everything will be good with the world, and we will be sorted. It's very interesting that that issue happened where it was only worked for the name parameter, nothing else. Very, very interesting stuff. It is running thread job under the hood. You can see that. Still in PowerShell package management, PowerShell archive, PowerShell. Then we have thread job. Interesting. Interesting. Hopefully we can get our build and we can copy and paste it in, and then we should be good to go. Lots of muck around today, which is always good. It's always entertaining. Waiting on that, we can get rid of that. Get rid of that. Okay, it's building some bits and pieces, that's fine. While I'm doing that, I'm going to free up some resources. Shut down those VMs. Let's go have a look at it now. Let's go have a look at it. There we go. Archive. Set files. Any workers, PowerShell 7. That's what we're looking for. Alright, I need to where does that package need to go? I need to kind of work this one out now. I need to put that package somewhere. How do we use NuGet to install from a directory path? NuGet install file. CLM install config file path. Okay, so we can just go NuGet install. Okay, cool. So what we can do here. What was that path again? So what we can do now, I'm just trying to think how I'm going to be able to put this in. Put this in my actual container. Using .NET CLI. I could actually probably just add the package directly, because there'll be a build for that somewhere. I'm guessing. I'm guessing there's a build for it. Just the release here. I'm just looking for it in NuGet. But I think it's the same one. Yeah. Contributing. Yep. Find the repo. Run a debug. The locate function for workers folder, a few hints to install via npm. If you write under the workers. Jeez, okay, there's a lot of work. Okay, so PowerShell worker alone is not enough to establish the function apps. You also need the Azure function host. This may be using publish host CLI and development host. Both of methods require your .NET process. If you want, yep, attach the debug experience. Locate. So first, follow instructions. How to install functions calls tool. And locate the function call tools bins workers directory. Is there a workers directory? Few hints where it could be located. Under the workers PowerShell folder, create a folder with name 7 if it doesn't exist yet. Copy the result of the published directory. It's not publish. I think I'm just going to try and get it through npm. I'm just going to quickly go off, see if I can find that. No, I don't want that. PowerShell Durable Reference, Durable Functions support for PowerShell. Alright, so if we've got the NuGet package, which we do, download that, rename the NuGet to a zip and extract the contents of any workers PowerShell folder to the workers PowerShell folder under core tools, overriding any files. Okay. Okay, so all we need to do is we can just go ahead. Source, binary, debug. Okay, where was that NuGet package again? Because it's just a zip file, so we can grab that. Then it says content files, any workers PowerShell. Extract the contents of any workers PowerShell folder to workers underscore PowerShell under core tools. Okay, so let's dump that there. I think I'm gonna have to go and manually install that into the Docker image. Oh, all right. Excuse me. Like that. What I'm thinking of doing is going git, I'll copy user sentiment, and I'm just going to chuck the actual build in here. So I'll call this build. And then what we need to do is rename under core tools. So if we go core tools, so if we jump back into here, I should be able to just start up a non-power. Okay, looks like we're doing that. What's this? This is PowerShell Durable Preview Master. Okay, let's get rid of that one. Should I open that up? So we could go AFK for a sec. Okay, I'm back. Screen. All right. Move that over here. Okay. Apparently, it can't go over there. So if we go build, we've got our content there. So where is our content here? So look at the Docker image, actually might have it in there. And we're looking for the PowerShell worker. Temp TS worker. Okay, so we're in the PS worker. Copy the result of the publish directory into the workers PowerShell. What was that? PowerShell 7 folder. Interesting. Package. Nope. Let's say content files. So it was 11th to the 15th. So it saves it there. Unzip to that. Remove that. If user library, functions cause. Then make directory, user library, call function tools. Interesting. So is that PowerShell worker? So if it's got 7, remove. What's that by? So it looks like it's already doing that anyway, because you can see here, so it goes ahead and downloads it anyway. So what's the package that it gets? So it's 3.0.266. What is this one? It's this one. What did we download it from? What did we download? .0.452. Okay, so there's new packages out there. Yep, 3.0.266. So we're going to 3.0.452. Time to rebuild. I'm just going to be the last rebuild. See how we go. Yeah, that's fine. Go away. Let's see what happens. I'm hoping that the container rebuild. Did it rebuild? I don't know if it's going to work. Okay, so there's no errors, but that doesn't mean anything because we haven't actually changed anything. No, it's still not working. I think I might actually need to do a full rebuild. I don't know why I didn't rebuild the container. That should have fired up. So it has the Docker file. It didn't do anything. Yeah, didn't do anything. All right, I think that's there's something definitely going on there, which is a bit of a pain actually, but I think we might leave it there for today. Lots of stuffing around today. Lots of stuffing around. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Gone along for the ride. Yeah. Oh, g'day, Brett. How you going, mate? Sorry, dude. I've just saw the chat. So just to give a bit of an update. So ultimately, what I'm doing is I've migrated all my code into a durable function app with PowerShell. I haven't touched it for a couple of weeks. Opened it up and it's not working. So what I've concluded is that there's this weird behavior where if you have name as the parameter value or the parameter name, it'll work. So if we just go post start, you can see here you won't have any sort of any errors being raised. Looks good. But if we actually change that outside to something else, it will fail. So we should get an error. So basically, it's for some reason explicitly looking for that specific parameter. Oh, sorry, dude. Let me flick it back. Sorry, dude. Screen. Okay, let me rerun that again. So actually, I can just kind of scroll up. So if you have the parameter name set to name, let's say, other than anything other than name, it basically can't find the input binding parameter name, which is super weird. But obviously, if you set it to name, it works. Examples within their on their GitHub counteract that, and that was something I was completely blown up. That's something that I was completely confused about because, for instance, this is how my activities are set up. So essentially, you've got I'm using namespaces, and then basically I'm calling and writing back. So I think what's happening here is there's been a few versioning changes, and I think I've got some issues with my Docker file. So I'm going to rebuild it in my container. I can see that I've switched it to PowerShell 7. That's fixed a lot of the issues with it. There was a new Docker image release, so I've used that. And then basically I've also noticed that there's been a newer release of the actual PowerShell worker. So I've gone ahead and updated that. But I don't think my Docker file's building properly. And yeah, I've just pushed a v7 dev container image to the repo. Oh, really? Okay. I might think about. I might try and use that one then. I think it's not to do with. From what I can see, I don't think it's. I think it's the issue to do with a release issue and obviously a versioning issue. So, my idea is that because ultimately this was working beforehand, so nothing has changed from my perspective from my code. So the only thing that I want to do now is kind of. Basically play around with the versioning, and ultimately it is alpha, so this is something that basically you're going to have these kinds of growing pains with any sort of code like this running in an environment. So but I do think that one thing is kind of pushed me now is that I'm just going to be running all my function apps within Docker now, because ultimately also within containers, because it's just running them on the host is just too much of a pain to manage. So let's have a quick look at this URL. What do we got? Azure Functions PowerShell, use the definition of the existing folder, definition itself to the variant tag, yeah. Testing definition. Okay, nice. That's really cool. What's in the Docker file? Arc from Microsoft. PowerShell 3, also probably, yeah. Okay, so that's a different, because yeah, we're using I'm using a completely different variant. I'm using their variant, which is Debian. I'm gonna try that and then rewrite some of it of the Docker image, and then if that all is good, then I might write as a PR for those guys and see if they can actually merge those Docker file changes in there. It's super basic, but I built a PS161. They started building an Azure Functions base image. Yeah. I haven't seen it translated into the actual the preview for the preview for durable functions. But to be honest, that's again, we're working with alpha code, so I'm not particularly overly concerned about that. But yeah. So how's everything been going, dude? How's the little ones? Obviously, it's a you've got a bit of keeping you up at night. Yeah, they're being merged, but they're not in the extension yet. Yeah, that's totally understandable. The thing is, at the end of the day, I think what I'll probably do is just keep troubleshooting it, keep smashing it out during the week, and then if I can get an answer, then we can kind of go through it on next Saturday, and then from that, yeah. Yeah, so I think I'm going to be leaving it here now because my wife actually wanted to take a bath at 0900, which basically means that I need to look after Bub. So it looks like it's sunny outside. Yes, it's sunny, so we probably will be going to the park in the morning, which she loves. She loves going to the park, so we're doing some of that. Yeah, so we had a child-free day, and most of it we went out for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. First child-free day too. Yeah, our little one's doing all right. She's 1 3/4 now. She's hit her terrible twos and getting some epic tantrums, which I love. She's yeah, but she's still loving it. She loves the park. She loves walking down to the park. So you know, things like that. She loves reading. That's one of the biggest things I actually really like about it for her, is that she loves to read books, and she'll quite happily sit there and read every book, and then you'll see this massive pile of books that she's read. So she's really enthusiastic about reading, which is really good. Yeah. Park. I thought you said pub. Yeah, no, not at 9 o'clock in the morning, man. It's a bit early. um, all right. Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there for today. Yeah, I think we've obviously had a bit of a very interesting time. Bit of a journey, lots of troubleshooting. It's always fun to kind of troubleshoot all these kinds of things. Bit of a pain, obviously. I hate, I always like delivering content when there's yeah. Oh, Corey, you finally responded. I'm like, hey Corey, how you going? And then you're like, totally ghosted me. It's always 5 o'clock in Margaritaville. Oh man. Nah, it's not. It never is. I was gonna say it's 5 o'clock over there anyway, isn't it? It's 5 o'clock on the West Coast, I'm pretty sure, in US. It's roughly about 5 o'clock. I had the stream open, but I wasn't home. He just had the stream open. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. Nearly here. I've gotta go. Yeah, it's 4 p.m. at West Coast. Yep. I hope everyone who's actually in channel, who actually watched me, literally write very limited PowerShell. I think the only PowerShell that I really wrote, which was constructively, was answer a few Reddit questions while I wait for the container to rebuild. So, yeah, you're gonna have these days, unfortunately, especially when you're playing with experimental technology. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be back next Saturday, probably cracking on with this again. There is another project that I'm working on, which I know that is really quite cool, which is using Selenium to automate. Yeah, no worries, mate. See you, mate. We're going to be automating basically web pages, and in this instance, it'll be some special types of submissions. Yeah, it's really quite cool. It saved me a lot of time with that. So anyway, guys, yeah, I'll see you next Saturday. Hopefully we have a working product by then, and it's all working, and I can have it deployed in production, and someone can build me a nice web interface, because I'm pretty much over this project. And yeah. So anyway, guys, have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.